You like that, Dr. G? Oh,
from the nursing home. Come on.
I'm sorry. I mean, you over there nodding like, yeah, that's that heat. Go ahead, Doc.
White man can't nod.
You got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the So What Morning Show back in the building, exclusively on TradioV. It's TradioV.com. You know, it's radio and TV. And you know what we do every week. We try to push the envelope with topics, discussions. I always tell people, this is not fix my life. We're not trying to fix your life. Sometimes we're trying to fix our own by having these conversations, you know. We're just explorers, you know, social explorers. This is an experiment. It's not our job to correct you, right? If I'm correcting you, then you're dead. You're a robot. You're an automaton. If you're looking to me to correct you, you know, you're setting yourself up for failure. And that's in life in general. And my job is to break down all of those beliefs. So, with that said, before we even get into all of that, topics, books, questions, community empowerment. Real quick, let me just set this up. My guy, Bobby Glanton-Smith, you gotta get this book, Real Men Don't Play. He said nobody's buying it. I feel a little disappointed about that. Let's support the brother. You done put together a collection of wise dudes, Jim Brown, Lionel Hollins, all of these guys, I mean, you know, with some real wise things to say. Sam Watson, come on, get a piece of this science. You never know what these older brothers is sharing. And, you know, I'm trying to be a bridge between that. So, get Real Men Don't Play. You go to realmendon'tplay.com to order your copy. One of my guests is in the building, good friend of mine. I've known him since he was a kid. He was literally a kid when I met him.
Probably.
Had braids like Allen Iverson, the whole 9 yards. Right? He was on 10, you know. But still, even then and now, one of the world's greatest poets. And I don't use, you know, great lightly. So, you got to support this brother. His name is Ise Lyfe. And this is his audio book of his book. So before I tell you what the audio, go to Amazon.com and order his book, Pistols and Prayers.
Yes, sir.
Right? But this is the audio of it. There go the braids right there. See what I mean? That's that's what he was on 12.
Where you find that at, man?
Oh yeah, we're gonna find the old. We're gonna find all the old stuff. We'll catch you out there, right? Yeah. But it's also available, Pistols and Prayers, Ise Lyfe. It's the audio book. Please support the brother. I mean, this is a very profound brother. He's not just a poet, he's an educator. He's not just an educator, he's a motivator. He's a life coach. He's a mentor. No, man, I got to give it all up. You know, when the city of Oakland name a day after you.
This is true.
Ise Lyfe Day.
But I'm a world-renowned ping pong champion.
Okay, see, and then now we're tripping. All right, ping pong. No, he's trying to be ultra modest, but this kid he's a thought leader in the community and one of those bridges. Try to bring bridges to this show, man. So, you know, once you find the bridge, you can cross over some trouble. Mm-hmm. So he's one of those bridges, and I appreciate him being here. Please support his work, audiobook, Pistols and Prayers. Also, for the topic, there's a book everybody must get. I've drawn a lot of information from this book regarding the topic. You got to get it. The White Knight Syndrome, right? Rescuing yourself from your need to rescue others, right? Two authors here. Marilyn Krager, Mary Lamia. You got to support this book. The White Knight Syndrome, rescuing yourself from your need to rescue others. Now, we got a brother, and I'm trying to get him to call in right now because I want him to promote this most profound thing that he's working on. But before I get him on, let's right now play his video. Dr. Umar Johnson is starting a school. Now, everybody know how I am about education.
And I am a school psychologist and doctor of clinical psychology. In addition to that, I hold degrees in political science and education. I am here at the historic St. Paul's College. This beautiful campus, 135 acres of which I hope to make the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy for African Children. This college, St. Paul's, was opened on September the 24th, 1888 by a contemporary of the great Booker T. Washington. That great ancestor's name was James Solomon Russell. Father Russell opened this college with less than a dozen students. And by the time it reached its zenith, St. Paul's College owned more than 1,000 acres of land and housed more than 1,000 African children. But unfortunately, last summer, June of 2013, the board of directors of this college graduated the last class of students from St. Paul's College. I'm hoping that you will help me keep this college in the hands of the African American community. I have a plan for this campus. I want to turn this campus into the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. There's a war in this country against black boys. I don't have to tell you, only 1 out of every 4 African American boys will graduate from high school. I don't have to tell you that 2 out of every 4 African American boys at some point in his life will be under the supervision of America's criminal justice system. I don't have to tell you that there's a school to prison pipeline that runs out the back door of the school into the front door of the prison. I want to stop that. And I want you to help Dr. Umar Johnson stop that by donating to my fundraiser, by helping me and our ancestors raise the money necessary to acquire St. Paul's campus. We need this 135 acres for our children. We have the dormitories. We have the gymnasium. We have the lecture halls. We have the cafeteria. We have a beautiful student center. I want this school to be a blueprint, a role model.
If you think it's a game, if you think it's a joke, we not playing. As a matter of fact, the esteemed brother is on the line right now. Welcome to the show, Doctor. Speak to us about this profound project you're working on, bro.
Yes, indeed. Thanks again, Brother Zoe, for having me back on the show. I know it's been a while.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. We're trying to acquire the St. Paul's College, a historically black college that was founded at the end of the 19th century by a formerly enslaved African. It closed up June of 2013. That's when they graduated their last class. I just found out about it a couple of months ago. We have been trying to get in contact with the president and board of directors for several months to no avail, and then all of a sudden we found out that the college was going up for sale. I wish I had more time to raise the money. 3 months obviously is not a lot of time, but to be honest, with the spending power of black America, it's more than enough time. So we want all your listeners, to go to drumarjohnsonschool.com and make a PayPal donation. And don't come back once. Come back as many times as you can between now and August the 21st. Try to help us raise this $5 million, which includes the cost of the school, but also rehabilitation and other charges that are going to be necessary for us to make it inhabitable for our children.
And really quickly, just give out that link, that point of purchase, that point of donation link one more time.
Yes, it's drumarjohnsonschool.com. So that's drumarjohnschool.com. drumarjohnsonschool.com. They could also visit drumarjohnson.com, but the link is only available at drumarjohnsonschool.com. So please tell a friend, tell a coworker, family. We need to raise as much money as we can.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, man.
Dr. Johnson, this is Dr. Goulston. I'm one of the co-hosts. I had a crazy thought when you just said that. The Clippers were just sold. Mm-hmm. And I think Donald Sterling's wife is still in the mix. And if she would like to distance herself from her husband's racist kind of stuff, I mean, $5 million is pocket change. And that might be kind of an interesting approach, because I would imagine she would want to distance herself from her husband or ex-husband. I don't know how you get to them, but there might be something there.
Well, that's a good thought. Appreciate that. I mean, we got to do this, though. I think Dr. Umar alluded to it earlier. Next year, 2015, African Americans are slated to spend $1.1 trillion. We should be able, globally, culturally, nationally, we should be able to coalesce around this concept. When you can own your education, imagine what that does for a people when you're in control of your own education. With that said, let me move really quickly. We've got a couple more things to promote. Blackmastery.com, the first neuro-linguistic program put together by a sister, Veronica Conway. Go to veronicaconway.com, go to blackmastery.com. Her and I are doing a Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur 8-week boot camp. You need to sign up with that. She's cold.
No, I'm enjoying the term wantrepreneur
to entrepreneur. Exactly. She's cold. The way you get to her is Veronica at veronicaconway.com. We're doing this together. Her father is a Panther, in prison, been in prison for many, many years. She's from the Bay Area, graduated from Cal Berkeley. She taught Iyanla Van Zant neuro-linguistic programming. She certified her. She runs with the Tony Robbins of the world. She created a neuro-linguistic program that's designed to undo Willie Lynch, that's designed to do Jim Crow, undo Jim Crow. At a subconscious level. If you can send messages of positivity and reaffirmation at the subconscious level, the conscious behaviors begin to change. She created that. You get that at blackmastery.com. Also, I want you to go to hiploose.com. These are brothers. They tailor suits. They 30, 40 different measurements to specifically fit you. High-end bespoke clothing. They're clothiers out of the South. Please support hiploose.com. Also, I want you to support AriseHospitality.com. Arise Hospitality is basically the Black Office Max or Staples. Arise Hospitality. If you got an account and you're a small black business with Staples, you could do this with Arise. They're black owned and they get the same materials from Staples, from Office Max. They got the same distributors. You can use them instead of Staples. And there ain't no excuses now, right? Also, RamoMart.com. You got to support my brother RamoMart.com. There are a lot of people who have supported him, and I appreciate everybody for doing that. This brother is working very hard. He too has, bespoke, tailored clothes. His stuff is high-end, high level. You got to support him. EasyBoyWeb.com. You got website needs, you got, graphic needs, logo needs. Go to EasyBoyWeb.com. I'm supporting all of the brothers. Everybody out there that's doing something positive, holla at me. I'll support you. I'll put you out. Zoe Williams. When we come back, topics, all of that. But real quick, take a look at this Black Mastery video. Go get it, blackmastery.com. Holla.
And one of the greatest tragedies in life is getting to the end of your life and looking back and realizing it was mediocre, and it didn't have to be that way. The number one reason is people are unwilling to listen and care about what's important to the other person. But what if you could be someone who dared to care about everybody in your life? When you're in love, smoke gets in your eyes. But when you're anxious, you talk more than you listen. I asked my wife a month ago, I said, I don't know whether to have an affair or buy a motorcycle. And she said, if you have an affair, I'll kill you. If you get the motorcycle, you'll kill yourself. Go with the bike.
Well, I am proud to be the white knight of this show. I'm the... But my problem is I can never rescue it enough. Because every time I stick out my stringy white neck, it gets broken. By my good friend here.
That was the sound of my sword.
Wow, just decapitated it.
Just right through bone.
And I try to decapitate the show. But what I want to talk about, if we're talking about white knights, you want to make a distinction between people with problems and problem people. And if you go to markgoulston.com, you can find out more about that.
Yes.
But the way you tell the difference, people with problems versus problem people, is you ask someone, think of what you want your life to be in a year, and what do you need to do to get it there? What do you need to do to get? What do you need to get better at to get it to that place a year from now? People with problems will be able to give you answers. Problem people will give you excuses. And they will just blame others. They'll feel sorry for themselves. You want to stay away from problem people.
And that is the tip. People with problems, because everybody has problems, right? Versus problem people. Very deep, Dr. G sets us up for our topic today. Very, very timely topic, I think. Let's go into it. The White Knight Syndrome. It's a book. I already told you to go get that book. Right? The Rescuer. Right? We've got questions. The White Knight Syndrome. Or in the hood, we call him Captain Save-'em. Or Captain Save-a-ho.
You're going to say it.
Hey, go on and say it. You say it for me. What do we call it in the hood?
Captain Save-a-ho.
Got it.
Got your cape flying around with 3 kids that ain't yours, all that.
Oh, God.
All that.
An expansive look into the mind of chronic relationship rescuers and their effect on intimate relationships. We've got questions. Get to your phone line, 855-878-4652. That's 855-878-4652. Now, just in case if you're just tuning in, we're on TradioV. That's radio in TV. If you want to see it live, tune in to TradioV.com. That's how you get out. Now, questions. Oh, man, we got a gang of good questions here. Do you have a compulsive need to be needed by your partner? Very interesting. Are you only attracted to relationships where your need to be needed takes precedent over your own? How many people, I know a gang of women that will keep going and going and going and doing and helping and serving everybody but themselves. They never get around to themselves. And I'm not saying it's a gender-specific kind of thing. I'm pretty sure there's some brothers out there that are bending over backwards for people. See, we live in a very polarized society. They quickly want to just say nurturing is a feminine thing. And I don't think that that's the case. You know, it just doesn't get publicized as much. But there's some brothers out there that are doing some nurturing in these hoods, that are doing some work in these hoods, that, you know, can classify as nurturing, can classify as even white knight. Saving the hood. Oh, wait till we get deep into this topic. We got more questions. What's the difference between the extreme nurturer and the extreme rescuer archetype in relationship? And here's the difference. We've heard of Captain Save-a-ho, but is there a such thing as Captain Save-a-bro? Captain Save-a-bro is out there. How many women you know always looking to fixer-upper? That fixer-upper dude. I can help you. I can save you. Right? And here's the question behind the question. Why you want to save somebody anyway? What are you overcompensating for? It ain't even coming from a sincere space. How many times have you seen somebody sabotage the relationship because the person you helping is getting better? Let me knock him down a peg so I can still be meaningful. White Knight Syndrome. How many save-a-hoes or save-a-bros you know? 855-878-4652 is the number to dial. We've got guests in the building. We've got guests on the line. Let me just shout out everybody real quick before we jump into this topic. Ise Lyfe, poet, mentor, teacher, lecturer, the brother's all over the world doing what he do. He ain't no joke. Deaf poet, all of it.
And is ready for the world with his hair. I'm liking that.
Hysterical.
Y'all don't get that, y'all. Did you ever... Turkaloo, did you ever play Old Sheila? You know the song Old Sheila? See, he don't even...
Wow. Yeah.
Guns. You don't even...
And Jeff's back. Yes. We've got legendary wise man in the building.
Bobby.
author, Southern sophisticant, intellectual. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I got to give you your props, Uncle Bobby. Uncle Bobby's in the building. One of the wisest men I know. Absolutely. Surrogate uncle.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the show, Bobby.
Thank you, bro.
Appreciate you. And, of course, Dr. Mark Goulston, author of Just Listen, very wise brother himself, a part of this roundtable panel discussion, much needed voice on this topic. Of course, we've got comedian extraordinaire, intellectual irritant, Jeff Brown in the building. He will be irritating us all throughout the remainder of the topic.
Yes.
And then, my good friend, artist, musician, singer, producer, extraordinaire, melodiously fly, Jasmine in the building. Everybody knows she does our intro, right? Do we have the Starring You intro so we could just get a little taste of her genius? Just put it underneath us very softly. Yes, Jasmine in the building. It's a show that's starring you. She's in the building with us to give us the female perspective. She's not conventional, but she's a cold piece of work. Watch how she gets down when this conversation gets started. And on the line, you heard him earlier in the community empowerment segment, my friend, my brother, and someone who I look up to, Dr. Umar Johnson, man. He's on the phone. Wow. He's going to be talking about this rescuer construct in relationships. Thank you for being on the show, brother.
Thank you. The honor's all mine. I'm interested in the topic and definitely want to weigh in.
Absolutely. And without further ado, he has the #1 selling relationship book of all time on the line with us.
Oh, my man.
Introduced by Oprah many years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a cold piece of work too, man. He's got information beyond information on relationships, how the mind of women works, how the mind of men work.
Let me know how.
I mean, he's cold-blooded. He's so cold, his science is from other planets. Without further ado, Dr. John Gray, author of Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. On the line with us, welcome to the show, Dr. John Gray.
I'm so happy to be on your show. This is fun.
Thanks for, look at you all cheesy. John. Got the glasses and the books in the background. I love it. We about to have a great time.
Yeah.
So, with that said, everybody's introduced. Let's get into this. Let me ask you a question. Might be a controversial question, might be a little slightly off topic. But aren't men genetically predisposed to being white knights in a way? Saving the woman? And what is feminism's effect on our ability to be effective white knights? Has feminism and Miss Independent killed the man's desire to even want to rescue? Is that why we create such a negative connotation with Captain Save-A-Ho? When technically, according to some people, we're hardwired to save our woman. I throw that out to the panel. Let's get started.
Dr. Gray, I'm interested. This is Dr. Goulston. Do you think that in the olden days, which may be a few years back, that men wanted to be admired and women wanted to be adored, and what's happened is that that's all gone haywire, and that men are not feeling admired or respected, and women are not coming off as particularly adorable to them. So I'd be curious what you think about that.
Well, I think those are good distinctions, and the world has changed. The more independent women become, the less they need men. And the less a man feels needed, he's looking for a job. And so what is my new job today? And I think men have a huge job for women today, to be supportive and provide a particular kind of support, but it's a different kind of support. I think women are embodiments of love, and they want a relationship with the guy. And old-fashioned relationships was, hey, I'm raising these kids. Would you go out and find protect me, earn a living, bring home the bacon? So that's the old-fashioned relationship. Women can go do that now. So what do they need a man for? And what they need a man for, to a certain extent, is I want a relationship. I want intimacy. I want closeness. I want romance. I want communication. And as you specialize in, I think the number one gift that a man can feel successful is to be a good listener. Because it turns out that the way women can cope with the stress of being a bacon earner, so to speak, is if they can share what's inside of them through conversation, because she feels safe, she feels that he's listening, he feels that he cares. Although to man, it doesn't seem like he's doing anything. It's actually a huge gift to her.
Wow.
And so in a sense, in a healthy way, he's a white knight helping her. And that's in a healthy way. We all want to make a difference in the world. Mm-hmm. But what you point out in your book, in this syndrome, is when our wanting to help other people becomes a dysfunction.
Wow.
When we do it and we're not successful at it, we keep trying to do it. And so quite often a wife might be saying, oh gosh, I had so much traffic today getting home. I don't know how I'm going to get time to buy the groceries, and so did this. And the guy says, don't worry about it. And he thinks he's helping her. He thinks he's solving her problem, as if she's going to say, oh, I didn't think of that. I don't need to worry about it. You're so brilliant. Thank you so much.
Wow. Hey,
it's not going to happen. And that's your gift, which is teaching men. I think we all have to learn the power as a gift to women of being a listener.
Wow. So, Dr. Umar, I'd like for you to weigh in on that, especially as it pertains to the African-American community and how we interface in relationship and that phenomena of Captain Save-'em or the White Knight. How does that manifest in our community?
Definitely. I'm going to come from a psychological perspective, since that's my background, and I totally agree with the previous comments that were made. One of the things we have to keep in mind when we're dealing with Captain Save a Woman, Captain Save a Man, is we're dealing with a person who obviously has a degree of insecurity about themselves. Otherwise, they would look for what it is they want as opposed to trying to create it. So whenever someone is going into a relationship from a deficit standpoint, I'm going into this relationship to make somebody into what I need. The question automatically becomes, why aren't you simply looking for what you need? And there's different variables that go into that. One of them is control. There is no such thing as helping someone out, saving that person without some sort of secondary gain for oneself. So many people go into relationships to save someone. They go in it with the intent of also being able to control that person after they save them. We also have to look at the role of ego protection. And what that means is if a person has a negative self-concept, they can very easily get into a save a person type of a mentality because they get to remake the way that they see themselves. And then also a lot of times you got to deal with the role of the passive-aggressive personality. People whose self-esteem is so low that they're willing to accept the treatment of the person they're trying to save, but at the same time can become very vindictive. So you have a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of personality often operating within this save a person mentality.
Wow. Wait. We got to take a quick break. But we're going to come back. When we come back, let's deal with this question. How can one's empathy for others be used in a negative way? When we return, So What Show.
Align your bodies. We all have 4 bodies. You got the physical, you got the emotional, okay? You have the mental, okay? And then you also mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical. Those are your 4. Mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical. You have to align all 4 of those bodies up. Let me give you an example. You might be spiritually healthy but physically unhealthy. If you're spiritually healthy and physically unhealthy, then your spirituality can only go but so far, because as all the great master teachers taught, that if the body is not healthy, it's going to be difficult for the mind to be at peace. Anybody who's infected with an illness, their mind is not at peace. It's very difficult to put it at peace. So when we talk about being spiritual, you can't just live in your mind. You have to understand that there's a relationship between the spirit and the body planes. And if one of them isn't healthy, it's automatically going to affect the other. Just like if you're healthy physically, but you're not healthy spiritually. You got a lot of folk who are super athletes. They run every morning. They do their push-ups. Physically, they appear in perfect health. But what they fail to realize is that those negative thoughts that they keep on feeding themselves will crystallize into not bodily manifestations. And this is how you get folk who never had a piece of meat in their life, but they still suffer from high blood pressure. How did that happen?
Ladies and gentlemen, the So What Morning Show back in the building. That was Dr. Umar Johnson dropping some science on the spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional planes that are also operating in relationships. Dr. Goulston had a point to make.
Yeah, I want to build on something Dr. Johnson said.
It's your organ in the body.
And I would love him to weigh in and love the panel to weigh in. Do you think that a lot of rescuers don't know what it's like to really be wanted. So what they do is they try to control the relationship by being needed. And people like being needed, but they don't like to be used. And so when you cross over from wanting to feel needed, but you end up feeling used, it can really just turn against you and just frustrate you.
That's that old saying, don't take my kindness for weakness, right?
Right.
And empathy can be used against someone in negative ways, right? To manipulate them. Like if you deal with a person, pimps are really good at this. They know the girls in the street are open wounds. Let me explain something to you. And Dr. Johnson and Dr. Gray, I want you guys to all chime in on this. I was talking to a young 16-year-old boy a couple weeks ago. I was, counseling him and mentoring him. And he's 18. No, he's 18. The girl he's dating is 16. He's a virgin. She's not. She's been raped. I said, listen, she is not old enough to understand the wound that she's projecting. Right? She's projecting an open wound and she doesn't know it. So she's trying to cope, right, by trying to be with somebody, namely you. And that's an escape. Remember how we talked before, Doc, in other conversations, I try to tell women, don't date your coping mechanism, which is a group of ideas that you created to protect you from some traumatic event. So then you project that outwardly, and men are the best liars because we lie with behavior. We know we can't out-talk you. We know we can't slick you that way, so we use our behaviors to confirm your ideas. But what ideas are we confirming? A lot of times we're confirming that coping mechanism, right? So I told the young brother, I said, listen, first off, you 18, she's 16. If you do anything, you're going to jail if you hurt her, right? If she feels hurt, if she feels rejected, if she feels abandoned, just the fact that you older than her and technically an adult, that's statutory rape.
Click, clack, watch your head.
You feel me? So I think in relationships, a lot of these subtle nuances are lost in translation because everybody is trying to make the relationship work, right? How do we get past people using their empathy to hurt us? A pimp is great at showing love to a girl or showing some empathy towards her and then getting her to do things that degrade herself. Can we go into that, please?
Sure. I would start off, this is Dr. Johnson, I would start off by saying one thing we have to understand about the failure of relationships in America and in the black community specifically. One of the failures is that people suffer so much trauma. Verbal abuse, child abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse. And what happens is the other side of trauma is rage. And a traumatized person normally has a low self-esteem issue by virtue of the trauma that they suffered. They're the ones who tend to develop the passive-aggressive personality, and they're also the ones who end up being, the saving men and the saving women type of personality. The problem is they expect a certain type of buy-in to what they're doing by virtue of the empathy that they give out. And once you no longer treasure the empathy that they're giving you, that same empathy can radically turn into rage overnight. And the same person who basically pampered you is now out to destroy you because the minute you do something that unnerves them, you wake up what I refer to as the pain body, which is the collective reservoir of all of their negative emotional experiences. And now you become the target for revenge for everyone from their past who treated them poorly.
Wow. Bobby Glanton thinks all of this is gobbledygook. Go in.
Well, not what he just said, because he really delved into something that ties into the great, and I think, epic book that the other man, what's the other doctor's name?
Dr. John Gray.
Men from Mars.
Women are from Venus.
Yeah. Man, that ties directly into what Brother Johnson just said so profoundly and so importantly, because on a daily basis, because we are made up differently, we respond differently to the same form of stimuli, in my estimation. So when you ask me to empathize with a woman, I'm out of my element. I don't know where to begin to deal with that. But I think in my honesty, that's a step forward. But what he talked about, that rage aspect, man, that is legitimate, man. Every day I see another social crisis where some man or woman has snapped because they have been just caught up in that wanting to be something to somebody, and then they reach a point of no return, and it just goes completely off the rails.
Ise Lyfe. I think it's important to contextualize the environment that our relationships are forming in. You know, we kind of have like this, almost like we picture two stick figures of a man and a woman together on a romantic piece of paper. But, you know, we're talking about people forming relationships in America, right? And so, and we're also, through the vein and the lens that we look through, we're talking about people forming relationships in urban or hood or black America. So folks come to the table to a relationship often not to grow, but to gain. Engage in relationships based on what can I gain from this. So when you talk about, I think it's important to contextualize when you talk about the whole idea of Captain Save-A-Ho, that comes from E40 in the Bay in the mid-90s, and in the hood, you are mocked or made fun of for any level of wanting to take care of chivalry, outright decency. So you know, just decency. You know, you can get caught saying, "Hey, I hope you have a good day," and you,
he's a simp.
Yeah, you's a sucker. You know, all this punk ass shit over here. You know, this is the kind of attitude that's formed around just being decent. And so the negative sickness, and it's not a black thing. My grandpa used to say, if white people have a cold, black people have pneumonia. So white America has the cold of misogyny, the cold of being abusive to women. So black folks, we have a whole, and another thing is, because I was listening earlier to the conversation around, you know, women have gotten ahead. And so it's easier in a white American context for a white man who is ahead to give way for his woman to also get a piece of the pie. Black men are dealing with a system that degrades them, marginalizes them, while promoting in ornamental levels black women. Black women are employed. Black women are allowed into schools. Black women are not threatening to the police in most circumstances.
You couldn't save me if you wanted to.
Yeah, and on top of that, if I'm and I'll be quiet after this, if I'm a black girl in the 4th grade sitting in a classroom, my whole elementary school life, the black boys are called bad. The black boys are kicked out of class. The black boys, there's something wrong with them. And so we see this attitude that black men have that is contentious, that has this contempt, and I think there's a hatred that fuels this idea of it's something wrong with a black man. Look, like if a woman has 3 kids, she's been abandoned by men and she got 3 kids. The black dude that comes along and takes care of those children and loves that woman is a sucker. That's interesting to me. While we don't hold accountable at all the brother who don't take care of his children. That's interesting to me. And so I say all that to say that I think that there's a sickness that we dealing with that makes it hard for us.
Jeff, take us out, and then we're going to go.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jeff.
You really, that's
let loose, Jeff. Let loose.
You telling me that if I come across a woman who has 3 or even maybe more children, and let's just say for the sake of argument, they look like neighbors, kids. They don't even look like they're related to each other. They look like they're playing outside because they got different daddies. There's a bunch of different DNA right here. I am supposed to hold into account the one or more dudes that have come before me and hold blameless the woman here who was obviously at some point screaming 4 different names other than mine.
I'm saying no, that's not what I'm saying. But
that's what it sounds like.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying if you chose to be in that relationship, it don't make you a lame. Because the question is, are her and her children doomed? Are they a different grade of human being? And that's how we see them, brother. And
can I answer that?
Yeah.
Can I answer that?
That's interesting.
Let's go with the definition. Let's go with the definition of sucker first. A sucker is an individual who respects a particular person or situation more than that person or situation respects itself.
All right.
Now, if I respect her more than she has respected her womb, I'm a sucker.
So let's do this. We have a woman here. Can we just get her point of view?
Go on, girl.
I mean, there's a lot of men in here, a lot of testosterone. Hold on. Here's your mic.
I do. Thank you. Thank you.
Speak into it.
Well,
so fine.
I want to say something as far as, I feel like there's resentment in the black community as far as black men have towards black women, because there's this myth that we're doing so much better and that we're striving. And, there are some good things that are happening, but you have to remember that we're working, but it's in mostly menial jobs. low-paying jobs. You know, we still represent more of the prison population. You know, that's an issue that we deal with as well. We're still overly represented in the prison industrial complex. And then, you know, the whole burden of single motherhood and having to raise families on your own. Like, these are issues that are affecting black women. So I feel like as long as there's this mythical idea that, oh, they're doing better, they're striving better, they're not, it's going to be hard to have empathy, as he was saying, that it's hard for him to express that towards a woman when you're not willing to listen and understand. And as far as the work environment, you know, I feel like it's a good thing that the women are allowed to be at work, because before, that paradigm was keeping them in unhealthy relationships. Wow. Where you're with someone just because he can financially provide, you know?
Great points. We're about to take a quick break, but when I come back, I'm going to Dr. John Gray, the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. We have some great questions. Can therapists or counselors become white knights because of some past trauma that they've gone through? And are white knights simply beta males and beta females? When we come back, Zoa Mornings. Oh!
The white knight. Such a vile little creature. Contemptible in the eyes of women and men alike. The white knight goes out looking for a lady fair to defend. He feeds into her solipsism, feeding her delusions about how beautiful she is and praising her every decision. When she makes a wreck of her own life, when she pursues a man who's out of her league and then blames it on that man being cruel to her, he turns against his fellow man, with no thoughts of justice, no thoughts of truth, and no thoughts to the fact that he's feeding into her own delusion, leading to her own ruin. The white knight is the beta male. He begs women for their approval and seeks to defend their honor. Like most forms of degeneracy, the internet makes the white knighting even worse. These pathetic little men get together in their little echo chambers, and where once social disapproval would have kept their cowardly mouths shut, now they feed off one another, attacking their betters and pretending that they are the good guys. But just because the internet makes it worse doesn't mean this is a new problem. Quite frankly, the vile, cowardly behavior of the white knight is a problem as old as our race. Adam and Eve.
Wow. Hey, that dude was kind of saying some things.
I can hang out with that hateful dude.
Hey, I got questions for the doctors. Dr. Umar Johnson, Dr. John Gray, Dr. Mark Goulston. Are white knights, as was described by Baldylocks, Anton LaVey, looked like the leader of the Satanic Church.
Right. Sacrifice a goat right after
right. Was he right, though? Are white knights simply beta males in shining armor? In America, the shining armor could be a good job. Mm-hmm. The shining armor could be status in the culture, but really genetically and character-wise might be a beta. Is that the real white knight? Somebody go deeper into that. Doctors?
Well, I'd like to go there.
Dr. John Gray, speak to us.
Okay, well, you know, what he was just describing is a quality that exists, and often in psychology it's called a placator. Someone who, I'm going to please you, even though I might be lying, even though I'm going to sacrifice myself, but I'll do whatever it takes to please you. So let me give you an example of where I saw this destroy relationships. People would come to me for counseling back in the 80s, before I developed the Men Are From Mars idea. And women would say, I want a guy who's nice, who shares his feelings. That's one thing women were all saying. He's in his head. I want to know what he's feeling. I want him to tell me what he's feeling. So I taught men, when your wife does something, tell her how you feel. And lots of psychology would teach men, I feel hurt when you say this. As if putting the word I feel in front of it makes anything okay, which it doesn't. But the response I got from women after 2 months of men suddenly talking a lot about their feelings. One woman said, I want to divorce him. I said, why? She said, I didn't realize he had so many problems. Another woman said, ever since you taught him to say, I feel hurt, he says it all the time. I feel like I have to walk on eggshells and protect him from hurting his feelings.
I feel hurt when you don't make me saying.
Another woman said, he's been telling me all his feelings. I'm not sexually attracted to him anymore. Woo. And I said, why? And she says, well, I love him, but I feel more like his mother. And I can't get turned on to my child. Ooh. And these are realities. So what happens there is a confusion, which is if I do what she says she wants, I lose her. And there's that old saying, the nice guy never gets laid. So what is going on here? So there's a lot of confusion when at the same time, I'm an alpha male. I make good money, but I'm also a gentleman. I'm a nice guy. My wife loves me and we have great sex, but I don't kowtow to every wish and want that she has. Our relationship is based upon two people who sometimes have to compromise and negotiate. It's not all about me giving up me to make her happy. So one line I really like, it took a long time to come to this idea. Every man loves to make a woman happy, regardless. And men who say, I don't care about her happiness, when they were growing up, they never saw their mothers happy. So it's too painful. It's too painful to try to make a woman happy. So he basically says, I don't give a shit, I don't give a damn, I don't care. Now, that being one aspect, but there's a lot of men who want to make women happy, and then it becomes a neurosis. It can become a neurosis, and something to help clear it so you're not a placater is the idea that you can never make another person happy. People have to find happiness within themselves.
Make them happy.
But this isn't always our experience. I arrive, my wife is happy. So I think, oh, I made her happy. I do not have the power to make any woman happy, but I can make a woman happier.
Wow.
And that's true, and that's healthy. So if I think that I have the power to make my wife happy, if she's not happy that day, then I feel like I failed. And then I get mad at her for not being happy because it says I'm a failure.
Wow.
But because I understand that she's got 100 other things going on in her life that can make her happy or unhappy. So I'm just one of those, and probably the most special. But I still don't have the power to just say something or do something and she's going to feel happy. But I can help her find her happiness, and then I can take her to a happier level if she's happy, just as she can take me to a happier level if I'm happy. And that becomes a healthy foundation for two adults who are whole within themselves, who can then take each other to a higher level, but we're not responsible for each other.
Wow. Dr. Johnson, speak to that, sir.
Yes, indeed. I think one of the central issues with relationships is that people generally are not interested in the other partner's well-being. Most people get into relationships looking for someone who can basically support their own agenda for their own life. In other words, the minute the people we're dating begin to help us see flaws within ourselves, we tend to end the relationship because our egos are not interested in growth. Our egos are only interested in maintenance of the fabricated, glow-in-the-dark, imaginary self-concepts that we have. And when you meet someone who can really help you grow, ironically, that relationship tends not to last long because you're not interested in growth. You're interested in maintaining the view that you have of yourself. Also, I think what is interesting is that the person who seeks to help someone, the saver, tends to have a low self-esteem, whereas the person they're saving tends to have a high self-esteem. Now, most people would think that the person who's being saved probably has issues. Not necessarily. The person who is being saved probably believes that they have a right to be worshipped and taken care of by someone else. And another issue that goes into relationship trouble is people tend to be around, like to date people who can bring them pleasure, people who know how to have fun. The problem is people who know how to have fun tend to also be some of the most miserable people in the world. That's why they're always looking to have fun. That's why they always want to go to the club.
Turn up.
They don't like being by themselves because when we are by ourselves, it is difficult to hide our misery. So we should be on guard for the party hoppers and the party pleasers because at the end of the day, they tend to be the most upset about their own lives.
Wow.
Wow.
Hey, it's all right here in front of us. When the brother Dr. Johnson, Dr. Umar Johnson said maintenance, that's the same as coping. Most people want you to date their coping mechanism. I call it a collection of ideas that form a moat around whatever hurt you've gone through. They want you to date that projection. They don't want you to date who they really are. Because if you're dating who they really are begins to become resolved.
They want you to date the great and powerful Oz.
Carl Jung said, all of our problems are in our subconscious, and they're trying to well up to the surface through conflict in relationships so that they may be resolved. Most people are identified by their coping mechanism. And the one thing the identity wants to do is protect itself. So whenever I get with somebody that's going to challenge me to resolve my issues, which have now become my identity, I reject them. We got to take a quick break. It's getting ugly up in here. So What Morning Show, 855-878-4652, TradioV.com, radio and TV. We'll be back at 2.2. We're going to keep it going. We got more questions, more topics, and great guests. We'll be back in a second. Deuce!
How he has a rap career is beyond me. I don't get it. And he takes his shirt off. Oh my God, he looks like 50 pounds of chewed Tootsie Rolls with his... All right. Now, you are in white fashion. You know white boys always leave the house like they're finna help somebody move. Resist and defend the horrible house. There are some horrible people. And what you need to do is start policing your own. I was looking on Facebook, which is where I call Facebook my morning paper. That's where I get most of my information, sadly. In Colorado, there's a man by the name of Jack Phillips. He is a baker, 57 years old, Christian, who got in a lot of shit because he decided that he was not going to bake a cake for these two gay guys. They got pissed off. It was a wedding cake. They got pissed off and shit went viral. They even had their friends call up to his bakery and ask for him to bake a cake for two dogs who were having a mock wedding, and he said how much and when before he would make a cake for two gay men. A couple of things come to mind. One, Jack, you letting the Bible fuck up your money. Okay? It's money. What these people want to do on their own time is their own business. As long as you give the Lord his 10th, he don't care who you make them cakes for. Because at the end of the day, the Bible is about that 10%. Now, parenthetically, I saved 10% on my soul insurance by switching to Don't Go. But that's another matter.
Oh, wow.
To the gay dudes. Aren't you kind of riding the ragged edge by forcing people to cook for you? That's a great way to wind up with the shits now, ain't it? What? If you gonna make me make a cake for you, guess what I'm gonna put in that cake? This is the one place where the gay struggle and the black struggle have a lot in common to me. You are both two groups of people forcing your way into clubs that don't want your monkey ass. Okay? Stop trying to make people want to get down with you. I think that is really, really a fucked up way to go. Coincidentally, in other news, I am opening a bakery in Colorado. It's called Gay Cakes. Gay Cakes. You come right on through, get your cakes. In June, Dick Shake Cakes is half off.
What? Okay, thank you, Jeff, for the intellectual rant. For those of you who are just tuning in and heard that mass amount of gobbledygook, Jeff Brown has a segment in the show called The Intellectual Rant. And it was very intellectual,
Okay,
but it
man.
was a rant.
It was
all
don't
over
ask
the
me.
place.
Don't ask me.
It doesn't always fit the topic,
No,
so
it
if
don't.
you're a little lost, we
Just
apologize.
piece of stuff. Can I get a shout out to Dr. Umar, man. I am such a huge fan of yours. If you have noticed a spike in your YouTube about Obama, that's me. I am always, oh my God, y'all listening to me. Just YouTube Dr. Umar Obama, and he will bust your brain open. It is
Now, back to the topic. Is the relationship concept, because we touched on it, because I think a lot of this deals with our white knight syndrome, Captain Save a Bro, Captain Save a whole concept we have going here today. Is the relationship concept of you complete me a complete myth?
Absolutely. It's not healthy. The idea should be that two people who are complete or striving for individual completeness come together and create something totally different.
Yeah.
I think I heard him make the comment earlier about deficit syndrome, and that's the issue. We're coming, and again, we put it in the context of our society. You're dealing with people who feel entirely incomplete, and then are searching for wholeness in other people who also may be sick or incomplete. So
what if your mama's sick and taught you the ways of sickness like a Sith?
Yeah. Then I think that feeds exactly into the paradigm.
What if your daddy is sick and taught you the ways of sickness?
Or what if your mama was healthy, your daddy was healthy, so you've grown and evolved into a healthy human being, and it's slim pickings out here in the sick world that we're in, and then you find and get addicted to what you've been talking about all morning, Zoe, which is feeling valid. Like that's what I bring to a relationship. I'm the person who helps, and that's a sick thing for us to do.
You need to buy hoes and adopt kids.
You know what, Dr. Mark Goulston had a point. He said he had some insight on why black women. Well, why don't you just tell us? I'd rather you tell us.
Tell me about black women.
Yeah,
Doc.
tell us about black women. You said you had some insight on something, right?
What do I know?
Well, I'm going to throw something out.
You know nothing, Jeff.
Nothing.
Because I try to listen into conversations, and I just got this insight about why black women and maybe all white people don't trust black men. And I think one of the reasons that goes on is, and I'd like the other doctors on the line to weigh in, there's something in psychology called projection. And so if I'm a black woman who is judging a black man, or if I'm a white person judging a black man, you're stuck because I can't believe anything you say other than wanting to attack me or resent me. Because if I was in your shoes as that black man, not being trusted and looked down on, I would have to react. And so you can't, I think black men can't get away from the negative projections of black women and of white people. And so you have, I don't know what the answer is, but if in my mind I'm thinking, boy, if I was you and you and I knew how you were thinking, if I was you, I would be angry, and that you're not angry, I know you're holding back.
Black woman voice.
Wow, that was a lot. And some of that, no, that was a lot. I had to take time to just really absorb that, because some of that I do believe is true. You know, there is a negative projection of black men, and I feel like I fight constantly not to absorb that in my psyche. But then again, I feel like issues, they cannot be above reproach, because I find that when we want to deal with real issues or our mistakes that we make or that black men make, just the very mention of it, oh, you're attacking me. You're attacking me, and I'm already so attacked. So I'm like, where is the space to lovingly deal with genuine issues and conflicts that rise in the community without him always feeling so over-attacked and being defensive?
But I don't think he's being paranoid to feel he has two strikes against him, and that there's always a bullseye on him with these two strikes against him.
But then again, I believe the black man is a God. I believe it's God, so I believe in him. I believe in him. I believe in him.
But I think you're a minority.
Ability to win. So a part of my frustration comes from me saying, like, you're a king. Like, why are you?
Yeah.
That's good stuff, Bobby.
Act like it.
Bobby?
Yeah.
I'm proud of Doc for expressing a point of view that a lot of people would have been afraid to do so. And within that construct, whether you black, white, or whatever color, it's all internal. At some point, for me it is anyway, and I had to evolve to that point. I had to get there And it took a lifetime to realize it's not so much what you say or she says, it's how I feel. Now, if I can't tell you how I feel, or if you take it the wrong way, then I need to distance myself from that as quickly as possible, because the only thing that I do have is the ground beneath my feet. And I claim that honestly, because I didn't come in this world to be a problem to you or her or anybody in this room. And that's a constant evolving position that goes on between my ears. And I think it's important that as we deal with these issues of saving somebody or not, or whether your intentions are right, you have to make that determination for yourself and then stand on that and stand firmly on that.
Dr. John Gray, you've been doing a lot of work over many years around intimacy, relationship. I love your definition for intimacy. See into me, right? Kind of like the movie The Avatar. See into me, right? I love it. Intimacy. See into me. I think that's beautiful. With all of your knowledge on relationships, I know you have to see the differences in the races. Like when you look at black relationships, how do you apply your methodology to black relationships? Because like the brother Ise said earlier, black relationships, if the United States has a cold, black relationships have pneumonia. We got HIV in our relationship.
Yeah.
How?
T-cell drop.
How can you apply some basic concepts for us that would turn us around? And then I'm going to apply that same question to Dr. Umar Johnson. Go, Gray.
All right. What you just described is a big topic, and I would look at it from a historical perspective as well. We're all affected by our past. I'm going to address the question you just asked with a few practical tips that I think everybody listening to this show today will have a better relationship, whether it be black or white. But when it comes to black men, our media, and we know this statistically, the media consistently portrays black men as more violent than white men. And statistically, white men are way, way more violent than black men. This is proven. And yet you talk to anybody, and they still tend to think that, oh, black man is scary. And this is horrible. Now, I look at this in a historical perspective, like you say, how do you get over this? Which I'm going to maybe give some tips to slowly move us forward, but we got to understand history, and that the white man has done a huge, huge harm to the black man. You know, the slavery movie that just came out was, you know, it was just almost so painful. I could watch anything in a movie, and I had to look away at times to think of what white people have done to black men and black women as well. And what I loved about that movie as well is it didn't just portray the black man as doing it, but the white man as doing it, but also white women were involved in it. It's not like the white woman is some saint and sat back. I mean, she was a part of that huge, huge injustice. So if I am a slave owner and I'm doing something bad to someone, the only way I can continue to do that is to dehumanize that person. The same thing we do, we fight a war against somebody, the terrorists. We've dehumanized them, as opposed to seeing people with families and children. We have to create all this lie and denial. This is a human being. This is an amazing person. And I know they're just a terrorist, as a slave. And they're not human, and they can't think, and they can't be educated. So the only way I can justify being so abusive is to say I'm not abusive. So this is our own denial of what we've done. It's horrible what we did.
Okay.
And now one additional thing, and I was once counseling a black woman, and she helped me understand this. So take it from her point of view, not me saying it, but she said another issue there as well is a black mother knew that if she empowered her son to stand up for his rights and his equality, he would be whipped,
he would get
and
killed.
he would die.
Yeah.
So a whole tradition adapted, a culture adapted that doesn't empower young black men to say, you're equal, you stand up, and you do not tolerate this. Because you would be chained, and you would be whipped, and you would be killed. And mothers knew that. And this was horrible. It's a travesty. And we're slowly coming out of this huge wound of white people being able to accept their own demons inside. That's when you're talking about projection. It's all about I have to project my evil person on black people just so I don't have to see myself as evil. When we look at the people who live in the ivory towers,
The people that make millions and millions of dollars, how can you sleep at night when people are suffering on the streets? I was a homeless person once. I understand what they go through. It's painful to say I could do something about that and I'm not, but I'm too scared to look at how evil I am, how selfish I am, how narcissistic I am. I want to paint myself as this wonderful, oh, let me smoke my cigarettes and take my drugs and look so glamorous and wear my fancy clothes and look how cultured I am, which is a culture of denial, of heart, of no compassion, of no empathy.
I can't thank you enough. I can't. Yo, when I come back, I'm going right to Dr. Umar Johnson so he can follow that up. We'll be back in 2.2. The So What Morning Show is off the rails. The White Knight Syndrome. Somebody save us. That's my homeboy from Dina's. Let it play. They had a group called the Big Tills. Live band, live instrumentation. The drummer was the singer. Oh yeah, let it bump for a minute.
Sound like some Jamiroquai.
Yeah, just some more weirdness, right?
Yeah.
I listen to everything.
You can't play this with a girl with a perm in your car. She don't get the you play the natural. Al natural.
Ladies and gentlemen, the So What Morning Show back in the building. Hey, I told you this is not Fix My Life. Nope. We're not trying to provide all of the answers. Because in a lot of ways, I look at relationships in the same way I look at quantum physics. Right? At a certain level, there's no predictability. You know? We have predictability. We have some mechanistic templates in place. But we are living dynamic beings, right? That phase in and out of those templates. And those templates are static. We're not. So you can't have a definitive answer for everything. But you can have deep conversation that is self-inquisitive. We don't do enough of that, right? We go into relationships with those expectations. So I say you're dating a coping mechanism, you're dating an idea, you're dating a concept, and then when you meet the real person, you're disappointed because they don't fit the ideological template. I'm going to Dr. Johnson because Dr. Gray took off from the free throw line with a blindfold on, barefooted, right?
And jumped over a Kia.
And jumped over a Kia and Blake Griffin at the same time and dunked on all of us with that last statement. When I look at the state of black relationships, there's so much trauma, there's so much drama, there's so much angst, there's so much capitalism, there's so much equity theory, there's so much all of this crap that we never really interface with who we are. And let's just be honest, who we are right now today, wounded souls. Can you speak to that, Dr. Umar?
Yes, I can. To start with, one of the biggest issues with black male-female relationships is the fact that the black man is the only man in this country whose wife does not have to go through him for necessary resources. We are the only group who can be bypassed collectively by our women for the things that they need. We're the only group where the educational and income level of our women surpasses the average educational and income level for the males. We're the only ones in that predicament. And the fact that the women earn more or are more educated in general, that's not the problem in and of itself. The problem is that many of our women have bought into the dominant idea about black men that American society wants them to believe. And that is that you make more than him because he's nothing. You make more than him because he's shiftless. You make more than him because he's lazy. So it's not the fact that she earns more or has a doctorate and you have a GED. It's the fact that she has drawn certain conclusions about why she has it and you do not. And the problem is that white supremacy comes home with us at night. And what that means is inside of the homes, the black man is wrestling with the black woman for a say-so in the kingdom. And so what happens is the biggest issue that black men have with black women is the psychological emasculation and emotional castration that they have to suffer as a result of constantly feeling like they have to defend their manhood to their woman.
Yikes. Yikes. Sister, would you like to address that?
Yeah.
I will. And, you know, I will say from, like, because we're speaking now in a historical context, and so something that I've thought about just as a black woman and how slavery socialized and conditioned us, especially being, you know, having to endure sexual abuse. Not saying that it didn't happen to men, but it really happened to women, to where we were taken off, you know, sex slaves and raped by the white man. And I feel like maybe it said something to us where it's like, okay, well, you can't protect me. You know, because I'm getting raped by this fool. Like, he came into the country, he's stealing my babies. You can't protect me. You're not protecting me. So I feel like that was maybe the beginning of kind of like the breakdown in trust. And I feel like black men don't really acknowledge that maybe it's kind of like some like hurt deep within the DNA that you watched me be raped and you didn't do anything.
The phenomena
like,
is
where were you?
And I think that's valid, but the phenomena is relatively new in the last 20 to 25 years of such an increase of black women being embraced in the economic and employment stratosphere in America, and also degrading and putting down. Basically, if a brother does not have money, he is useless. He's a failure.
Or status.
And it doesn't. That analysis doesn't consider the war that's waged on black men. I don't think that most people, period, even black men, really realize and I think a lot of brothers even think, you know, it's just hard out here. A black man even doesn't necessarily feel like that. Yeah.
So Jeff Brown had a point. Then Bobby, go, Jeff.
Okay, two things super fast. First off, to that point,
super fast.
When I see homeless white dudes, y'all really ain't shit. Okay. the worst your luck, the worst a white man's luck should get is manager at Jack in the Box. Now, second, all you gotta do is show up for 90 days and wash your ass. They'll put you in charge. Second, I could have swore that you implied that there were more black professional women because black men need to get their shit together. And that I'm almost done, sound like the exact opposite. No. Well, you got to talk to me like I'm five. Wait, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I'm working with a Chicago high school public education from the 80s and Mythbusters. That's all I have, okay? And it sounded like you said, well, it's more, brothers need to get their shit together then, which is where Dr. Umar sound like what he said to me is the issue with the female black mind go.
But I'm not speaking as they need to get their stuff together in a paradigm of white standards.
No, I said shit. I said shit.
Well, okay, shit. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like that is an issue, because I feel like oftentimes there is no paradigm for success within the black community that's our own. You know, success is still defined by, well, what are they doing and what do they have? And I want to sit at their table. So what I meant is that I say that I see you are... You're a king, and so I don't want to take any excuses from you because I know what you're capable of.
I want to respond favorably to something Jasmine said at the onset of her discourse a minute ago, and that was, in the eras of slavery, there was a conditioning that went on wherein she, as a woman, felt a certain way about how defenseless we were. And she said it so profoundly because it made me really think how deeply rooted this problem is and how far back it goes. And I really want to applaud you for putting it out there just like that, because as men, we have to accept the fact that we went through that. We sit there and watched, at the threat of death, a white man have his way.
Wow.
And it did something to us. It really did. It did something to all of us. It did something to that white man, because he's paranoid as hell, and I would be too if I did that to some.
Well, that's why they're trying to control us in every aspect of society. Don't wear braids, no tattoos, don't do this, dress this way, speak this way, because they know deep inside every black man in America germinates a seed that says, fuck with me now.
And let's talk about let's talk quickly about Reconstruction, because that's a jumping off point for me. I can't take responsibility for that era, but I can take responsibility for myself. Yes, sir. I'm not going to apologize for wanting to be a man, a man's man. I'm not going to apologize for that.
Real men don't play
whether I fell short or not, that's my daily ambition is to be a man about it.
Right. Now let me go to Dr. John Gray real quick.
Oh my God.
Dr. Gray,
have one of those.
Wait, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question really quickly. Just taking in the whole conversation in context. And I asked you, and first off, you know, we were over here buzzing off of your last statement. I mean, during the break, you know, we were buzzing. But let me ask you another question. Just taking in the whole conversation in context, would you then say, as it pertains to African Americans and our relationship and the quality of our relationships with each other, would you then say that the white judicial system, the white supremacist system in and of itself is the real white knight for sisters, for black women? Is that the person who comes and saves them? Is that ultimate Captain Save-A-Ho for black women?
I don't have a response to that, but I have a big response to what you said a moment ago, which is right now, what I was talking about is the white man has a deep, deep fear of the black man because he projects his own aggression in you. And I don't believe inside of black men is, don't fuck with me now. I think that there's anger, of course, there's hurt, there's wounding, but I think there's a deeper soul, the soulful nature of black people, which is expressed so rapidly in the black culture, which you, of course, know much more than I do. But all of our soul music comes from the black community. And there's a soulfulness, and there's, maybe on a historic, evolutionary, spiritual level, the black community has learned a tremendous soulful quality, which is patience and surrender. And that's the positive side of it. But the other side of it is standing up for yourself, which you're now doing in that movement, in that direction. And this is a big healing on the planet. But I just, you know, I'm a self-help guy. I help people have relationships. I want people to have a little piece of information here that between every black woman and every black man can make a little difference. And that is something women are not aware of. The most wonderful thing you can say to a man is after he speaks, no matter what he says, he pauses, consider what he says. Don't jump back with a comment. Instead, take a moment and say, that makes sense. Whenever you say to a man, that makes sense, you'll see him sort of reflect on what he just said. Another phrase to use, that makes sense. Another one is, that's a good idea. Men thrive on this. We often don't hear that. And women feel that inside, but they don't realize how important it is for a boy or a man to hear, good idea, that makes sense, and whenever possible, you're right.
Dr. John.
To say that is such a gift to a man.
Dr. Gray, you have something that I studied a while ago, and When Mars and Venus Collide, that book. Great book to get. You know, he has a bunch of Mars-Venus series. But when Mars and Venus collide, you can keep the camera on Gray. I want to see Gray.
Yeah.
When Mars and Venus Collide is a great book. Can you talk about how appreciation boosts testosterone in men and how listening boosts oxytocin in women? Can you go into that?
Okay, that's based upon research. We now know one of the biological differences between men and women. Men need 30 times more testosterone in order to feel loving and positive and stress-free. What boosts testosterone is when you acknowledge a man's successes, what he can do, what he does do, even little things, like that's a good idea. Oh, thanks, that was so helpful. That boosts a man's testosterone, which we need in order for our brains and bodies to support positive attitude, good feelings about ourselves. Women have much lower levels of testosterone. Their body's designed based upon a hormone called oxytocin. So little things that a man can do for a woman say to her, she's beautiful, she's lovable, she's special, she's safe, she's protected. And we men don't realize that. When I give my wife a hug, when I ask her questions, when I am affectionate to her, when I plan something for her, these are little things that we men do, and they have a big effect on women. And one of the challenges for men in relationships is after we're having sex with her, we stop doing those little things because we think, well, now we're doing the big stuff. Why do the little stuff? When actually it's the little stuff that opens her heart and produces this hormone that helps her cope with stress. So it's the little things. And listening when she's upset or bothered or says something, just taking time to listen is one of the most important gifts to produce oxytocin. On the other side of it, is when a man is listening, for a woman to always make sure that you say something along the lines, I really appreciate you listening. I know you wanted to jump in there with solutions, but right now I just need to talk. I want to connect with you. And just let him know what works for you. And particularly as a daily thing, my wife is so wonderful now. She learned this. Whenever I say something somewhat intelligent, she says, well, that's a good idea. Almost as if I hadn't thought of
Somewhat.
that. Isn't that wonderful?
Right. Hey, that's a great point. Dr. Umar, and then, well, Jeff, go to your point, because we got to wrap and then come back with Dr. Umar. Jeff?
Dr. Gray, I just want to say I've been a big fan for a long time, and I'm a fan on another level, because I see you got a keyboard behind you. You do beats?
I do. I love it.
I told you. I told you he did.
He don't do beats.
I love music.
Dr. Umar, when we come back, I want you to close us out, man. I want you to follow up with all of this, because the black community needs relationship tools. And that's what this whole show is about. Because I think we all need rescuing from each other, from ourselves, and then rescuing from the relationships that we're currently interfacing in. We'll be back at 2.2 So What Morning Show. It's crazy. Holla. Woo.
It just seems like they're taking advantage because
a record about privatized prisons?
Overhead in terms
wow.
of insurance.
You know, we got records. I like to bring originals. That's my homeboy Chase Skizza. He from Dina too.
What?
I've always said, you know, we tend to not be able to be human in our relationships. And I always say, to error is human, right? But blacks are so wounded and so hurt, and not just blacks, people in general. But when we look at the black community and its specific needs, it's just wounds dating wounds. It's generational wounds dating generational wounds, right? And the desire to be in a good relationship is so high, a high-functioning relationship is so high, right, that sometimes we lose sight that the pathway to getting to a good relationship is reconciling the generational curses that we're interfacing with, you know? Thanks, Jeff, for the sound effects. We appreciate it. Dr. Umar, can we speak to some of the relationship generational curses that are just on autopilot in our mind as we interface in our relationships?
Well, the historical mistrust between the black man and the black woman is there. But I think also we got to keep in mind that the modern conditioning that is wrought upon black children by parents and other people in the community is just as powerful in being able to determine relationship satisfaction. For example, I do a lot of work with black boys, black teens, young black men, both in jail and out of jail. Most of the messages that they're learning about black women are not coming from black men. It's coming from their mothers. It is the black mother who is teaching her son to view the black woman as a bitch. And the same thing goes with the black father with the black daughter. He's not learning to see black men as worthless by the dominant society or by black mothers. It is her father. Who better to know what a black man is going to do to me than my father? So black men need to be careful of the messages we send to our daughters about other black men. So we have to look at that. The other issue is relationship as a drug. Too many people in this society are miserable for personal issues, family issues, intergenerational issues. And just like any good drug, whether it's cigarettes or alcohol, marijuana, sex shopping, or food, dating is a good distraction that keeps us from dealing with our internal issues. And so many people get into relationships to distract from the agenda of fixing themselves. And what often ends up looking like a relationship issue is not a relationship issue at all. He did not make you miserable. Your ass was miserable already. All he did was expose the misery that was lying just beneath the surface.
Wow. Dr. Umar, can you expound a little bit more? In my opinion, it seems like black fatherhood is always on trial, but black motherhood is always beyond reproach. Can you speak to that phenomena?
Without question. In fact, we can look at it the same way we look at black racism and white guilt. We have a black female privilege, a black mother's privilege, if you would, and a black father's guilt. And that is when the father is not involved in the life of the child, there is the assumption by everyone, American society, the black church, the black community, that he is responsible. And the reason he's not in his child's life is because he doesn't want to. And because of that, the women who actually play terrorists against the black father by keeping his child away from him is able to elude responsibility for destroying the relationship because nobody considers her to be the cause of the separation.
Wow. Wow. These are real issues.
Absolutely.
That we have to take into, like, we got to take it into our think tank as a community, because really what I'm starting to see now, and I appreciate so many, everybody's insight, what I'm starting to see is black people have to really take off the villain, right? We got to take off that, because right now the villain is victimhood, right? We got to take off that villain thing, which is victimhood, and start saying, okay, we need to save ourselves. This is why I brought Dr. Umar Johnson on the show. This is why I brought Dr. John Gray on the show, because I want tools to be infused in these types of dialogues, right? Because there's, most people, listen, I tell my son this all the time, 17, you know him. I say, listen, you're not born with a manual on how to be you. And the only way to know what you are, what you've learned, what you've picked up, is to be in relationship. That's the only way to know what's stuck. If I told you something, you know, because he's got this big thing, Dad, I need freedom, I need freedom. I say, yo, freedom is coming. And you're going to recognize one day that maybe freedom is more than you bargained for, right? But that's when you interface in those relationships, then we'll see what's stuck. I want
to build on something that Bobby said before, because Bobby said, he's only responsible for the ground underneath who he is. And I want to ask you, Bobby, how do you know when what you're saying is an expression of who you are as opposed to a reaction against other people who think you're something else? How do you know when you're expressing your true self as opposed to reacting to all this other stuff?
It's an evolution. If you'd asked me that 10 years ago, I'd still be looking at you and searching for an answer. But when I arrived at a comfort level with who I really am and who I want to be on a consistent day-to-day basis, I became that person willingly and honestly, and I accepted the loneliness that sometimes comes with that, the negative reaction I get from other people for claiming that space, because I mentioned to you before that first person mentality. I'm into that right now. And I can live with who I am. But if I let you influence me or anybody in this room, man, I'm going to have some sleepless nights. So I'm real comfortable in my own skin at this point.
And I think that's an excellent point that takes us back to Dr. Johnson's point when he talked about the parentage, right? The parentage. People who are raising us through the filter of unresolved relationship issues, generational curses. That's how we're being raised. And until we're able to break free of that, I always say, until you're able to reconcile the bullshit your parents have taught you, you're not an adult. I see so many 40-year-old women that are talking about, well, you know, me and my mom are on good terms now. You know, we had it out finally, or my mother finally told me why she did this or why these decisions were made. And not just moms, it's dads too, right? You know, that the dad who thinks because I provide financially, right, but I don't provide wisdom, or I don't provide presence, or I don't provide emotion or empathy, you think you've done a good job, right? You know, you got the silent father where you had shoes, didn't you? I made sure you had clothes, right? Or I made sure you ate. They think that's fatherhood, right? But fatherhood is more than that. So all I'm saying, we've got all of these issues, right, that we carry with us. And I believe until you're able to slough off what your mama thought or what your daddy thought, and you start to be able to create your own experience based off of your own inner knowledge, then you're still a child.
How much of who you are and how you are is a reaction to having felt powerless for long periods of time when you were younger, and what you're saying to yourself is, I'm not going to be powerless. I was powerless when I was young because they were bigger than me. And how much of you think our present state is a reaction or a retaliation against having felt powerless against the unhappiness, the fear, the anger, everything in our families?
Right. And I want us to be mindful of something. I just want to suggest this, that particularly when we talk about black folks, black men and black women, imagine if me and a woman are in a car together and we arguing, and then that car starts to swerve off the road, we go off the cliff. And now it's about how do we survive this crash that's going down. No matter what our argument was or whatever it was, we in the same situation together. Ain't no opting out of that situation as individuals. We in it together. And this dialogue that I hear about black men and black women, it's always like, okay, I'm in this car, you in that car, and we riding down the freeway yelling at each other through the window, instead of saying, no matter what, we in this thing together. That's not just on an intimate relationship thing. I think in our community, there's a tone of where we are tolerating each other, because now we can opt out. You know, when we start talking about these conversations about people's right and choice, that being an interracial relationship, people's right or choice to not live in the community amongst each other, this opting out thing, I think, comes from the idea of not being willing to struggle with each other no matter what our circumstance is. And I think that's important. Don't mean we abuse ourselves. Don't mean we allow ourselves to be in something that's abusive, but that we hope to be able to work it out.
Jeff Brown.
I think happiness.
And I think also, though, we have to keep in mind that conditioning is much stronger than consciousness. And I think one of the reasons why it becomes so difficult to move beyond previous experiments and intergenerational conditioning is because we fail to realize that conditioning is stronger than consciousness. I mean, Sigmund Freud, and I don't agree with a lot of what he said, but one of the things he said that I do agree with, it was very profound, and that is that your mind is 80% unconscious and only 20% conscious.
Wow.
You got to remember now, most of our bodily activities, whether it is breathing, whether it is elimination, whether it is repair, those things are being done by our unconscious mind. We're to the point where we think we don't even have control over it, where we actually do. See, when we come into the world, there was three things that all of us needed. We needed deep intimacy with our mother and our father. We needed a deep sense of trust with mom and dad, and we needed a deep sense of reciprocity with mom and dad. And if you did not get that love from your opposite sex parent, you might spend the rest of your life trying to compensate for a childhood parent relationship deficit. If you couldn't trust your mother, you could spend the rest of your life trying to compensate for a childhood parent relationship deficit. So we have to look at how our poor relationships with our parents predispose us to poor adult relationships.
Wow. Hey, we got to take another quick break. Jeff had a point, and then we're out.
Happiness is a gas station. People keep acting like that's where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to gas up and get happy for this bullshit that we got to do together down the road. Quit trying to...
And with that note, we'll be back in 2.2 to wrap it up. I'm going to get everybody's information. Listen, crazy topic. Zoe's final thought on the way back. Final thought. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, I'm not going to lie to you, right? These shows serve as my therapy for my bullshit, right? I believe one of the worst things a person can be called is a relationship expert, right? Because I believe relationship is so intimate, right, and so insular, right? I believe it's your school. I believe relationship is a highly reflective school. And whatever conflict, feedback, or negative experience you get is part of your curriculum. That's how you evolve. That's how you grow. And when you're a walking wound that has built a wall of coping thought mechanisms, ideas around this wound to protect it, unconsciously in most cases, right? When you're doing that, you prevent yourself from graduating from that particular class, right? Some type of savior, or because I'm hurt, I desire to save, right? can throw you out of balance. Now, relationships in general, there's something called a healthy rescuer, where you're just a good person and you're rescuing people, but not to your own detriment, right? You're rescuing, you're helping, and you're serving, not to your own detriment. I love this Sanskrit word, seva, right? Seva, S-E-V-A, seva. It means serve, right? It's a part of their prayer. It's a part of their worship in Sanskrit. It is required for them religiously to serve. And I believe when we serve through pain, right, we grow immensely. When you're this wound running and running from situation to situation and running from relationship to relationship and trying to, you know, Quincy Jones said, we got holes, right? Shit, man, we got holes, you know. We're trying to fill those holes, you know, with whatever, you know, whatever it is. It could be music, it could be drugs, and sex, you know. We're trying to fill them up, you know, but they're endless, you know. Shit, man, you know, right? We all got holes, right? And we're trying to fill them. But if we're filling them by not confronting them, then it's like eating spiritual junk food. We never get satiated. We never get full, right? The purpose of this show is not to fill you up. It's to remind you that you're hungry. And it is to look at what you're eating, right, in the moment to get past that negative feeling. That's the purpose of this show. Hey, did you see what you're putting in your soul? Right? That's it. We can't be human right now. We got to hurt each other in order to grow. Right? We have to. That's just the way God set it up. If you believe in God, God set it up for conflict is the conduit to growth. Don't think you're going to get something meaningful without getting a pound of flesh taken out of you. Don't think that. Right? Some of the best lessons come from those who hurt us the most, and the people who hurt us the most tend to be the people that are the closest to us. And those are some of the greatest lessons in our lives. We so busy trying to move to the next situation that we just forget about the purpose of you being in a relationship ain't to be, you know, it's not to be watching Desperate Housewives on Sunday. It's not just sex, it's not just family building, it's really you building. The university of you, the relationship you're in is the university of you. With that said, that's my final thought. And what I'd like to do right now is get everybody to tell us where we can find you. Dr. Umar Johnson, please give us that email address and your website and everything. You gotta go support this man's school. We need a school. Dr. Umar, I'm gonna have you come back too. What is the link for the school, brother?
The link is drumarjohnsonschool.com, drumarjohnson school.com, and also for any parents out there having issues with your children, education or mental health, special ed or ADHD, feel free to get in contact with me, and they can email me through the website, drumarjohnsonschool.com.
Please, please, this is a call to action. I don't beg for nothing, but I'm begging you all right now. Go donate right now. It's just that important. Please donate. Dr. John Gray, author of 17,482 books and counting. Where can they find you? What's your website? What's your email address? People may have questions for you, John.
I want to thank everybody. I had just a wonderful experience listening to every single person on this panel. I think you did an amazing job. What amazing insights. What a great discussion. To carry this discussion as it applies to men and women, Mars, Venus, I have a website, marsvenus.com, with hundreds of short videos for people answering questions they might have. The best videos are from my daughter, Lauren Gray. She even has a free ebook for anybody that goes to marsvenus.com. Or you Google my name, it will come up.
Wow.
marsvenus.com, and that's Mars Venus Dating. She's brilliant, as any proud father would be. She's the better generation, so check her out.
Wow. Hey, we so appreciate you, and you know we will be calling you again. This is like the third or fourth show we've done together, and I appreciate you, and I'll be calling you again. We got more stuff to come.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bobby, where can they find you? Real quick.
At Glanton-Smith on Twitter. My website is www.realmendon'tplay.com.
Dr. Mark Goulston.
MarkGoulston.com, MarkGoulston.com, or HeartfeltLeadership.com.
Ise Lyfe.
I am on Twitter at IceLife.com. I don't even know if folks can see that.
Yeah, they can see it.
Oh, they can?
Yeah.
And there's me, I guess. But yeah, so it's ISELYFE. Also on Instagram and at IceLife.com.
At Ise Lyfe. And, of course, Jeff Brown.
At GB Funny Style is the Twitter. Jeff Brown's Fan Mob on Facebook.
Jeff Brown's off the chain.
Fan Mob. Again.
Fan Mob.
At Melodious Fly. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that.
Where do you buy your
Melodious Fly. You can buy it at melodiousfly.bandcamp.com.
Zoe Williams at Mr. Zowud on Instagram, and go to ramomart.com. The dude got jeans. I'm wearing a pair right now. Take a look. Bam!
Yeah, you gotta check your package.
Yeah, I gotta check my package. The dude got jeans. Support the man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, IamZoeWilliams.com, BlackMastery.com, Neurolinguistic Programming, NLP, BlackMastery.com. So what? Next week, another heater. Holla!